everybody. So glad to see all of my great friends here today. All three of you. Frau O'Donnell, you had this look on your face when she said the word perk. And I know you were thinking about coffee pots. I know you were thinking about that. I owe a lot of my humor to you. I'm going to get a couple of things out of the way here early. What should I start the program off with? Because there's a few things that I want to talk about today. First of all, I'm here to talk about International Village. I'm here to talk about myself, how I was born and raised in McKeesport. We're going to talk about polka music. We're going to talk about tamburitsa music. We're going to talk about the culture. But I'm thinking, what do you start off a program with? And the last two songs you heard are obviously universally and internationally known as two of the most famous polkas anywhere you go. It's kind of funny to me, too, because I'll have people request them everywhere I go. And there's thousands and thousands of polkas. I've written polkas. All bands have written polkas. We've made up polkas. We've recorded all kinds of polkas. There's polkas from so many different nationalities. Yet, you get people always asking for the Pennsylvania polka and the beer barrel polka. The funniest thing happened to me a couple of years ago. I was playing at this function, and this elderly couple was there, and the lady said, "Oh," she grabs me by the right arm. She said, "Oh, I want to tell you, I'm the biggest polka fan. I love polka music. We go to all the dances. We've seen all the bands play. We bought all the records. We love polkas." I said, "Wow, I'm honored that you come here to see me play it. What would you like to hear?" She said, "Pennsylvania or beer barrel polka." I just got the biggest kick out of it. It was actually Facebook worthy. But anyways, great. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here today. And at first, a few months ago, when I was contacted to do a program here, this is my first time that I performed in this building, even though as part of the International Village Committee, we did have a few meetings here, and I was in this room. This is a beautiful building. At first I thought maybe they were going to put me in the old schoolhouse. It's a couple hundred years old. Just kidding. But we were discussing possible dates of having this program. And I thought, what a wonderful time. I had an open Sunday, ironically, a couple days before International Village. And I thought this would be a nice event to tie into the village. Obviously, there's a lot of buzz in the air this time of year for the anticipation for the village. And, obviously because of events that have happened in the last year plus, we're going to have International Villages here. We're proud to say it. It's going to start Tuesday. 2 days from now. 2 days from now. Let me see. It's 5:15. 2 days from now, we're going to be in full operation just over the street there. We're going to have 15 booths this year. A lot of people ask me, who's going to be there, who's not going to be there, but it's going to be a wonderful presentation. We have to do something, and obviously there are some organizations that are not able to take part in something like this now because a lot of organizations haven't had masses, haven't had any meetings, haven't had practices, haven't had any cohesion for a long time. So they didn't feel confident that they would have the manpower or the volunteers to be able to have a booth. But we do have 15 booths. I'm going to have bands every day in the blue top, and there will be a couple of main stage entertainments every day too, plus some continuous music. It should be a wonderful week, as long as the weather is okay. That is the main thing. We always worry about the weather. Here I thought I was going to sit here and tell you a little bit about the history of International Village, but we have Bernice Joncetich in the audience, who is a wonderful friend of mine, and she has the Voice of the Croatian Fraternal Union radio show every week and does a magnificent job. And she's right here. So I'm kind of nervous to see her in the audience because I was born in 1973, okay, but the village goes back to 1960. So I wasn't there, and I only know what I hear and tidbits that I've picked up through the years about International Village. We actually have somebody that was not only there, but her parents had a lot to do with the first several villages. So if I make a mistake, Bernice, just let me know. Throw something at me or get my attention. But the idea of International Village started when our then mayor, Andrew Jikomas, whom they affectionately called Greeky Jikomas, attended the Pittsburgh Folk Festival. Am I correct? Yes. Is that correct? Yeah. And at the time, the Pittsburgh Folk Festival was a big time. At one time, I know it was at the Civic Arena.
Before that, it was at the Syria Mosque.
It was at the Syria Mosque. I know they moved it to the Civic Arena, but this was a gigantic deal.
Yes.
And it was a multicultural event. A lot of bands played there. A lot of dance groups were there. A lot of food, a lot of fun. It's just slightly before my time. I never got to participate in a Pittsburgh Folk Festival because as fast as it went up, it also went down, which is something we're very proud about, the McKeesport International Village. We're as strong today, I feel, as we've always been, and we have minor things that happen year to year. This gate, there was a problem. This ice vendor wasn't here. Just small, minute things. But we're always able to address those concerns and try to be bigger and better every year. So I don't see any end to International Village as far as I'm concerned. It's always a wonderful event we look forward to. But Greeky Jikomas attended the event of the Pittsburgh Folk Festival and got this idea. Why don't we bring something to McKeesport? At the time, you had 50,000 residents here. The mills were booming. There were tons of people everywhere, and very multicultural too. I mean, when you think of McKeesport, you think of a lot of different cultures there. So it made so much sense for McKeesport to have a festival. Let me see. Bernice, I'll go to you for this. 1960 was the first year, and at that time it was referred to as Old Home Week.
Yes, it was down on Market Street.
Correct. It was right on Market Street, and then they had a parade, and I think there were 8 floats in the parade.
Yeah, there were 8 floats, and then, as I just let you know right before, the floats in the parade continued. 1966 was the last one. They had through the first 6 years of International
But they moved it to the park before then.
They moved it to the park in the second or third year.
Second or third year. So it's been in the park since 62, 63. I don't know if he ever imagined how large this would turn out.
The little prelude to that, the Pittsburgh Folk Festival, my dad was the architect for that. And they were planning something for Old Home Week, and my mother was at a meeting, and she gave 2 tickets, and it was Mayor Jacobus and Zoran Popovich.
Zoran Popovich.
They
Yes.
went to Pittsburgh, because the folk festival in Pittsburgh was earlier in the year, and they said, let's make that part of our celebration for the future. And that's the way it started, and as you said, this has continued to be strong.
Absolutely. We consider Greeky Jacobus to be the father of International Village here. And so much so as when they built the Blue Top Pavilion that I'll be performing in with my band this coming Wednesday, they named that pavilion after him. That is the Jacobus Blue Top Pavilion. By the way, in 1998, guess who was the first band to play there?
You were.
It was me. And I didn't even book myself yet. You know?
Wow.
How about that? Anyways, my history with International Villages, I remember being dragged there as a little kid, and I loved it. You know, it was a lot of people we knew, neighbors, friends, and all the people that went to dances and things. And when I was a little kid, my grandfather, if my grandfather had $1 in his pocket, guaranteed he was going to buy honey balls from the Greek booth. But he always tried to go on a day or two that he knew that one of his favorite local polka bands was playing. And those are my early memories. And it's funny now, one of the things I really enjoy is not so much the music, because I hear this music every day and I do it for a living, but it's the smell. Do you know what I mean by smell? When you walk into International Village, you smell all that food. I have the best seat in the house on the main stage because I can smell the gyros, and I can smell the funnel cakes, and I can smell the apple dumplings, and I can smell the French fried vegetables. To me, I love smell because that's one of the greatest things that capture a memory for me. So Tuesday at 3:01, when I'm there walking around, I will be a little kid again. It'll take me back to when I was a little kid with my grandfather. And never imagined back then that I would have such a role in this. My first year that I performed at International Village was in 1990. For several years leading up to 1990, there was a popular local accordion player, not from McKeesport, but he was from Monroeville. His name was Mark Karosha. And he had a band called the Matt Cernick Orchestra, and he had a lot of success in the 1980s as Matt Cernick and the Happy Wanderers. At the time I was coming up into the playing world, he was kind of fading out because of personal problems and some health problems. And that year, I was a member of the Penn Ensemble's adult tamburitza group in Versailles, as I was in my high school years, because I was prepping to perhaps go to the Duquesne University Tamburitzans, which we'll talk about that a little bit later. And my band, my polka band, got hired to play at the main pavilion for the Penn Ensemble's picnic as part of the tamburitza groups and things. And Emil Antoncic was there, the late Emil Antoncic, who was one of the voices of the Croatian Fraternal Union show that Bernice Jancetic has now. And he saw me play with my polka band. I was only 17. I'm sorry, I was 16. I would have been 17 that November. And when they found out that Mark Karosha, Matt Cernick, could not play that year in 1990, at the time his band played, but he also strolled around the park. Maybe at the time, I think the village opened at 4 o'clock, and it would go to 11. And from 4 to 6 every day, instead of having a group on the stage, Mark Karosha, Matt Cernick, whatever he was called, he would wander around and he would stroll through the grounds. And that year in 1990, he couldn't make it. So Emil Antoncic called me at my house and he said, hey, I saw you playing at the Penn Ensemble's picnic. I see you play accordion. Would you be interested in strolling through International Village? At the time, I was not a solo performer. I started solo around 2013. And at the time, I had a trio. It was my grandfather and Chicky Kresovich, a longtime tamburitza bass player friend. And the first year of International Village that I played, we strolled all 3 days from 4 to 6. And our picture was even in the Daily News, which I still had. We had red shirts on, black pants. It was great. We looked nice in the picture. It was actually a black and white picture. So we But anyways, that was the first year that we played, and it was really something. Talk about going heads in, you know, because it was a big deal for me, because this is something I grew up going to every year. I went as a spectator, obviously, seeing the bands eating honey balls and a lamb or whatever, and enjoying all the sights and the smiles. And everything was getting bigger, it seems, every year. 1990, Village was a big deal to me. So, and my picture was in the paper, and it was also the very first time I got to play on live radio, because as we were strolling around at the time, there were 2 radio stations, area radio stations, that would broadcast live from the Village grounds. You had John James, WEDO 810 had a booth, and then also WIXZ 1360 at the time had a booth also. And as we were strolling around, one guy from WIXZ came over and says, "Hey, I want you to play on our radio." And I said, "No, I'm kind of nervous, I'm young." And then John James comes over, "Hey, we want you to put you on the radio in 5 minutes." I said, "Oh, I don't want to." So I ended up caving in, and I did the broadcast for John James. And I know the guy, whoever owned WIXZ, was mad at me because we didn't go over there first. And I have a nice picture of that, and I actually have that recorded in my documents. But that was really something for me starting out the first year. Then from the second year on, my band would play. And I'm thinking, what do you play on live radio when you're 16 years old and this is your first Village? I will share with you one of the songs that I remember playing. Oj, Myryczka pegla, 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 pegla. Oj, Myryczka pegla, 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 pegla. Oj, Myryczka pegla, 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 pegla. Oj, Myryczka pegla, cijeli dan i noć.